The wholesome child, for me, is a well-adjusted child, socially, emotionally, self-esteem-wise, empathy, responsibility. They understand all of these things.
It's our pleasure to bring to you another episode of The Heart of the Matter. On this episode, we'll be talking about children. We're talking about the uniqueness of children. You know, it is often said that children are our future. And our guest today has a program, has a vision to bring children up to realize their full potential. Our guest is Mrs. Okeyinfu Ajayi. You're welcome to The Heart of the Matter.
Thank you.
You're the director of Busy Minds Center in Lekki. And it has a center that takes children from the age of 3 months to about 6 years.
6 years for the school.
Okay. What is your vision as regards the children?
Again, a cliched word that says that I believe that children really are our future. And so to reach one child, you've reached thousands of people actually. And so I believe that children spend a lot of time in school. It should be a place where they feel safe, they feel protected, they feel happy. And so every single day, all of their experiences add up to make that child an outstanding individual. That's my strong belief.
So your vision is to take the child and make the child an outstanding individual.
To help the child become
everything that was in there.
That is in them.
That is in them. Okay, and so you talked about a safe haven, somewhere children can feel safe. How do you create that environment?
We have a lot of our staff have been with children for a long time. A lot of them are parents. And so they understand what it feels like to leave their child in another person's care and go off to work. And so when these kids come, they do their very best to ensure that they're happy, they're loved, they have lovely, fun experiences. Typically, when they're going home at the end of the day, they don't want to go home. They're actually crying. And for me, my day was successful. If I have a child going home and they're kicking and screaming because they don't want to leave me, and I'm just happy. And they are happy as well. That's how we provide a safe haven for these kids.
Okay, so what is the process of bringing out all that potential that is in the child, which if the child is not properly, I don't want to use the word handled, but managed, that potential may never come out. What's the process that you have for doing this?
The process we have is a lot of observation. A lot of, what would you like to do today, sweetheart? A lot of watching the child. What are they drawn to ordinarily? If we say, I want to do art, but I want you to create, what would they typically create? If we say, let's have a drama, give us a script, what would you like us to act about? What would they typically say? Those are the kind of things that drive who that child is. Those are their natural tendencies. How do we mitigate or reduce, if you would like, those characteristics that typically people would say, they're not good. And then leverage off of their strengths to make them the best that they can be in that thing that they want to be. That's how we work. Okay,
so now you said about discovering the hidden talents in the child. Do you ever have any conflict with parents in this area?
Yes, we do. We do, because, parents have a strong sense of where they want their kids to go. And we as a school, we also have a strong sense of where we think the child should go. But ordinarily, how we basically work on it is by a lot of interaction. What are your goals? Why do you want it to be this way? And then we let them know these are our own goals. And based on our experiences, this is how we typically believe that kids turn out if we do X, Y, Z, if you say.
Okay. Now, without names, what success stories do you have? Have you been around long enough to see a child come in and see that potential being realized?
We had a child who came in and she was confused, if you like, because where she used to be, they were teaching her the ABCs, and then we were working with her on the sounds because we believe it aids children work faster. And so she became very confused. And at home, her parents didn't quite understand what they needed to do because, they grew up in the typical ABC type environment. And so what we then did was call them in and have them sit down and watch us walk. It was kicking and screaming. They came in kicking and screaming because they were like, she's fine. And we went about this way. We were like, just give us a chance. And when they sat down and watched that child walk and manipulate the sounds, and then they were like, you know what, let's do it your way. And so they don't walk with her at home anymore. But now, she's such a strong reader. She's young, very young. She's about 3.5. But she's such a strong reader. She understands the fact that if she doesn't get her way, if she wants to say an A and we say, no, sweetheart, it's ah. She doesn't scream anymore and say, but this is how I don't know what to do. No, she's like, okay, I don't understand it. Can you walk with me? She's 3.5. But she has learned the language of, I don't understand it. Can you help me get there? And for me, I mean, her mom came in a few weeks ago and she was amazed. That's my success story. For me.
Okay, now, again, how can parents help rather than hinder you in unlocking the potential of their children?
How can they help? First of all, they have to see us as partners. I mean, no matter how much I love...
So you're not just somewhere they can drop their children off at school?
No.
Okay.
No.
While they go to work?
No. It can't be that way. They are partners. We have mandatory days, actually, where the parents have to be in school. It's called Parents' Day.
Parents?
The parents, yes.
Not just one parent?
Not just one parent.
Do the fathers come?
Sometimes they do. Sometimes we have a lot more dads, actually. We have a case where it's the dad that's typically always there. The mom doesn't get to come in. And so, yes, we have that, but they have to see us as their partners. I mean, we're raising this child. I mean, there's a proverb that it's the community that raises a child. So we are part of that community.
That proverb is becoming less and less applicable in the way our society functions.
Yeah, it's becoming less and less. But we want it to be a strong sense of our being, that we're part of your community. We're part of working with you to raise your child.
Would I be right to say that for most children, their basic character is already formed by the time they're 10 years old? So that those first 10 years are the most crucial in influencing a child the right way?
The first 6, actually.
The first 6?
The first 6, which research has shown, and I mean, you can Google it anywhere, 80 to 85% of the brain, the adult brain, is developed at age 6. They formed all of their adult tendencies at age 6. And so if a parent misses early childhood, they have quite a number of catching up to do with the child. So yes, those first few years are the formative years of a child. And if a parent misses it, either by a wrong school or a wrong doctrine, if you may, it's kind of hard bringing it back.
What about problem children?
Honestly, a child who would typically be called a problem child is just screaming for attention. There's something going on in there that they would like for you to address. And their only method of expressing that, of getting that attention, hearing you, making you hear their scream, is by those characteristics.
Tantrums, bullying
yes,
other children.
It is.
And so, you know, because I brought up the subject of problem children, because there are many children in our society today. And some of them are problem children because of the environment at home. Some of them are being bullied at home. Some of them are being abused at home. And if you had any child like that, a child, for instance, has been suffering abuse, can't talk, what would you do?
First of all, I would find out, why is this child like this? What is happening in this child? I would find out ways to draw that child out. Either, sweetheart, write me a story of what happens at home. Tell me what you like the most about school. Those kind of leading questions that by the time they begin to write, because they feel safe enough, then you will begin to see what really nobody noticed. Sometimes you get them a diary with a lock and say, write this thing in there, nobody's gonna look at it. Maybe after a week, you're like, can I just take a little peek? You need to ask permission, or you've broken their trust. And once you do, you can't get it back as easily. So those are the kind of things I would do.
Okay, now, there's a lot of talk going around today of children and sexuality. Now, the average Nigerian would say 3 months to 6 years, why should a child be introduced to the subject of sex? What's your take on that?
I think they need to know, because if they don't learn it from the parent, they may be learning it subconsciously from another child or from their environment. So I really do think they need to know. Not in very strong, maybe graphic terms, but they just need to know a little bit, even if it's just the basics.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more about this now. Viewers, stay tuned. We're going to take a little break now. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to the Heart of the Matter, where we're talking to Mrs. Ajayi, who is the director of Busy Mind Center in Lekki. This is a school which is bringing out the best in your child, finding out what a child's talents are, and helping to steer the child in that direction. Now, just before we went on a break, we're talking about children and sex education. It is never too early to begin to train your children. KK, what's your take on this? How can you, in collaboration with parents, because I didn't have any sex education from my parents, and I've talked to so many people, most didn't in my generation. So we mustn't let our generation suffer from the same thing. What do you do? How do you introduce sex to children at those tender ages?
What you do basically is give them an awareness of self.
Okay.
Who am I? It's like the first lesson. Mm-hmm. Who am I? I'm a girl, I'm a boy. Where you talk about the gender, and then you talk about the differences in gender. You do it by drawings, you do it with songs, you do it by showing them puzzles, you do it with books, you do it with pictures, you do it by taking them on a whole wonderful journey of self-discovery. Slowly you begin to introduce them to differences, and then depending on their age, you begin to let them know certain places that are restricted that really are for you and not for nobody else. And that's how you basically start talking with children on sexual matters.
And how do the parents cooperate with this? Because it seems to me that most parents are happy to relegate this to the schools, and that's not healthy in itself.
No, well, it's slowly. Parents just don't want to have to hold that monster by the horn right now. And so you slowly let them understand that, look, you're going to have to do this. You can come in and watch us work with your child in school. And so that gives you an idea of what to do. And then things like what they do at home, don't leave your child with just anybody. You come into school, for example, and it's the May guard. And because you're in a hurry, you leave your child. No, so we also involve ourselves in parent education, where the parent just needs to know these are acceptable standards, and you can't break them because you're in a hurry or because it's not convenient at that time. It just doesn't work that way. And so basically moving them around to our way of thinking, slowly but surely.
Okay. And you find that you're carrying the parents along?
We are. Like I said, a lot of times some of them kicking and screaming, but when you don't accept, you don't really want the best for your child. That's when you're gonna not want to be part of this. You have to.
Now, you know, my father's generation, they wanted their children to be engineers, doctors, lawyers, architects, and so on. But today we're seeing a whole lot of other things that people can do. How do you break that mindset in some of the parents of today who want their children to do certain things and are really just trying to live their life through the child?
Breaking the mindset of the parents is a tough one, but the only way we do it is basically letting parent know we're not going to make the child be what you want the child to be. We're going to follow the child. What does this child want to do? If you don't like it, I'm sorry, but my first loyalty, if I may say, is to the child. And so we let the parents know in very clear terms, my first loyalty is to your child. And so if you want to live your dreams through your child, I'm not going to support you in that. However, you can let me know your goals for your child. And if they do work with what the child wants to be, then, oh, fantastic, everybody's happy. But if not, then it's the child.
But at that age, children haven't really been exposed to much. So what are you looking for as you follow the child?
What you're looking for, again, like I said, is natural tendencies. There's some children who, to get them to do any work, you're going to have to start with a song.
Okay.
Or they're just not going to settle down. They're just not going to. There was a child who, I was trying to teach her, it was Mother's Day. And I wanted her to write something about mom and draw a picture, and she just wouldn't. And I said, you know what, let's paint. And so I brought all sorts of colors. I brought the sounds I wanted her to work with. And we painted the sounds and then stuck them on the paper. I got her to do what I wanted her to do, but in a way in which it worked for her.
So you discovered that painting was something
She enjoyed doing. And we worked with her, and I achieved my goal. And she was happy. It's meeting in the middle.
Now, the home, because these children come from home every day, they go back home every day. How important is the home environment in raising a child?
If I had to rate it, home and school, home is like 85%, and school is 15%.
So what is the home environment you're looking for?
The home, for example, after I had day at work, using myself, an adult, as an example, I want to go home and just take a break, kick off my shoes and just let my hair down. Now, that's me, an adult, I'm over 30. Now, for a child who's been in school, maybe sometimes till 6 o'clock, and then they want to go home, they just want to go and just be with mom, be with dad. An ideal home environment is a place that lets the child be the child. It's not a place where the child goes home and starts to have, at 6 o'clock, lesson teachers, or at that time, you're bringing out your homework, you're screaming at the child. The child is not allowed to play a little bit of Wii, just simply because it's regimented. This is how it should be. This is what it should be. Does the child want to be that way at that time? Parents don't really give a hoot, if I can use that word.
So you want the child to be themselves?
Be themselves.
Now, what about the environment of the home? What are the things parents can do with their children and with each other that will create that environment?
They have to make time, first of all. They have to have dates.
So they've got to get back home from work.
From work.
Before the children go to bed.
Before they go to bed, yes. Sometimes it's not the quantity, but the quality of that time, even if it's 10 minutes. But let it be a 10 minutes that was an amazing one. We played with soap and made it messy. I read to the child. I left the child laughing so that they're looking forward to when I come home tomorrow, because they probably woke up and I'm gone. to waiting to see me. They're expectant because they know my time with my parents is an amazing time. Parents need to find information is power. I mean, Google should be every parent's friend, really.
When you say parents, are you talking mom and dad? Because there's a tendency for mom and dad are also coming home tired. And they're tired, they just want to kick off their feet and be themselves. So there has to be some sacrifice in order to be able to give time to children. Yes. What about the relationship of mom and dad with each other? How much impact does that have on the child?
It has the most profound impact on the child, because for the child, that's their primary association with social relationships, mom and dad. And so if mom and dad are rarely together or rarely speaking, they're going to assume that it's okay to just move through life and talk only when you feel like talking, or not even have strong attachments to other people because they've never seen it happen.
Okay, so mom and dad must display an environment, a loving environment for their children to see. And it shouldn't be put on because children...
No, they sense things. They sense it like that. They don't know.
Let's talk about KK a little bit now. You're doing this. What was your motivation to getting this started? I mean, you know.
Honestly, education was something I never imagined that I would get into. I was running a consultancy firm, and then somebody mentioned something about a school, and I went in there, and I was there for over 4 years, and I had the most amazing time. And when I left, I didn't think I was going to go back. I just wanted to take a break. But again, it's almost like the water that would definitely just burrow through that sand. That's how it was for me. It found me again. And then I started.
So you just had this natural inclination towards education.
It's sometimes.
What's brought this about?
Honestly, I can only say because my father is a teacher. Not my father that gave birth to me, but my heavenly Father. maybe because he's a teacher and he always,
But he's a teacher, he's a pastor.
he's so many things. He's so many things all rolled into one, you know. And so for me, it's just in there.
Okay, what role do children play in this real passion
For me,
for teaching?
you're just going to have to love children. I mean, if you're out there and a bike just ran into your car and you came and told the child, they probably laugh. And you know, in watching them laugh, you find that you smile. And it doesn't seem as big a deal as it was when it happened. That's what children do.
Do you have children of your own?
I do.
So with your children, how, you know, I don't want to get personal.
Please, by all means, get personal.
But how are you finding discovering their talent?
Oof.
I mean, you know, can you say that you have found the talent in your children?
No, not 100%, because they're growing every day and they're changing every day. But I'm trying to be the best parent that I can be for whatever stage that they are. That's what parents need to understand. You have to be flexible. My child yesterday wanted to be a fashionista.
Okay.
She wanted to have a band of her own. And my son wanted to be a pastor and a veterinary doctor because it would make God happy. But tomorrow they would change. And I need to change with them. I can't be stuck on their yesterday and not see their tomorrow.
This question is really about the icons that society has created for children. And because you said your daughter wanted to be a fashionista, and maybe that's because she's seen a lot of these A-list models. And what do you do to disabuse the minds of children from following some of these icons that we've created in Nigerian society, who do not have the same morals that we want to see our children have? What can we do?
What I do personally as a parent is let them know, sweetheart, that person, that's their job. It's not their life. It's their job. They're on stage. They're acting. And so you cannot leave. And I tell them, you know, remember when you acted in school? She said, yes, was that you? I said, oh no, they had to learn the wrong. I said, exactly. That's how it is for those people. So I try and break it up and let them understand that there is a life beyond all that glitter, really.
Yeah, well, it's not just so much glitter. They sing songs which have lyrics that are not wholesome for our children to hear. You know, what can we do?
You're going to have to doctor everything. It's like reading their books as well. You have to read their books first. You sit down with them and watch the cartoons, because even cartoons have sexual undertones these days. And so you're going to have to watch it with them. For my kids, I let them know, okay, sweetheart, you cannot watch this channel between this time. Good thing is that they can tell the time. And so between this time and this time, you cannot watch this channel. And so they know the programs. Even when they go to their friends' houses, my mom doesn't allow me to watch that. Is what, you know, the reports I get from them.
Who is the wholesome child?
The wholesome child, for me, is a well-adjusted child. Socially, emotionally, self-esteem-wise, empathy, responsibility. They understand all of these things. Maybe not in the measure. I'm
going to ask you to break some of them down.
Okay.
You talked about empathy, okay, responsibility. How responsible would you expect a child of that age to be?
For a 4-year-old, if you were walking past another child that was having lunch, and somehow you hit that child and their lunch fell, you have to understand that, sweetheart, it was a mistake, yes, but there was an action that came as a result of that mistake. That's how a child that, as young as that, understands that I had something to do with this, and I'm going to have to say I'm sorry, and be part of the process of solving that problem that's been created. There's no lunch. So that's responsibility.
Yes,
that's
empathy.
Responsibility. Empathy is understanding that I want to play with this child and she's just not feeling that good. You have to understand, not every time that they want to play, you can ask, would you like to play with me now? If they say no, leave them alone. You can come back later and say, why? And so you begin to expose them to those WH questions, really, from a very young age.
Okay. Now, Busy Minds is helping to build Nigeria's future. And that's a tall responsibility.
Can I change that a little bit?
Please.
We're working to prepare the children to take control of Nigeria's future.
Okay, explain that.
Basically, they're living every day in this environment. They cannot just walk through or work through that environment assuming something is going to make it change if they're not part of that process. And so they understand from when they come into school in the morning, they need to take care of their environment. Some days we leave it dirty. Not because we couldn't clean it, but because it's yours. You're going to have to make it good, make it livable. And so they understand that even out there, beyond busy minds, they're going to have to make Nigeria work. And it's something that we show them, something that we teach them practically, not just talk about it.
So now, we neglect our children at the risk of the future. If we neglect our children today, we are destroying our future potential as a nation. I want to say a great big thank you to you, but what is the last thing that you'd like parents to know about Busy Minds, about what you do? Not just Busy Minds, but what you do with children.
I work with children to first of all be children. Because when they're comfortable at that situation where they are, that position where they are, they will be able to take on the future and whatever comes along, because they have learned that to be content doesn't have to do with anybody else, but with them. That's what I do with children.
Okay. Wonderful.
Thank you.
It's been great having you on
Same
The Heart of the
here.
Matter. We hope we'll get you back to talk about this or another subject at some time in the future. Viewers, we've been happy to have you watch this program. We'll be back again next week with another episode of The Heart of the Matter. Until then, stay blessed.